Yes, hello and good afternoon or good morning everybody, depending on from which time region of the world you're dialing in now. I would like to welcome you to our webinar regarding EMC Documentum for Life Science. Today we are covering specifically one of the four modules, the module Quality and Manufacturing, in a little bit more detail. My name is Peter Bomse and I'm happy to be supported by three other people, sorry for that, that helped me presenting you the life science solution, specifically quality and manufacturing. Before we go into the content, please give me a chance to tell you a few words about the technical things that we have here. You are muted, actually, so all attendees are muted. And you will not hear any background noise due to that. And unfortunately, you cannot speak, but I think this is the typical mode here. If you have any questions, please use this question bar in the GoToMeeting client. I'd also like to emphasize that the question will be recorded. And if you want to have a chance to listen to it laterwards, you have the possibility to download the session. A word about what will be presented today and the presenters. First of all, I am happy to give you a little insight of the business benefit of the specific solution module. After my little part of the presentation, I'm happy to have Hubert Meckel here in this event, and he's one of the key people in the EMC organization that has quite a deep knowledge about this technical, the functional scope of the model. He will talk about this unified solution approach and of course of the functions of the module, and also have some words about the implementation, how you implement it. What is the approach to implement such a solution? Finally, my colleague Frank Dantron from the FME United States supports us and give you an overview of how applications can be migrated into the new life science solution of EMC, and of course helps us to answer your questions if you have any. The webinar will last approximately 30 minutes regarding the content, and we have another 10 minutes for questions and answers. So just a few words about our companies. The FME company is a partner of EMC for many years and is specialized on the life science industry with one of its business units. A word about my person. Peter Bunz is my name, and I'm heading the Life Science Competency Center within FME, and also one of the business units that offers services all around implementation and migration of Documentum systems. A little word about the business benefit of the life science solution and the quality in manufacturing in detail. It may be well known, but it's always good to remember that we are talking about something that may, in many companies still, specifically in smaller companies, replace paper, systems that use a lot of email or file shares in order to get the control documents managed. I will go into a little bit more detail during these aspects later on. Just a rough overview of what's going on. The second, I think, key aspect is here that we are talking now about solutions that prefer configuration rather than programming and customization. This is something that is fairly new in the industry and has significant benefits that I will mention a little bit later. The third one is that we should be aware that this is a solution specifically designed for the industry, for this the life science industry, and brings along quite a list of benefits regarding this topic. Yeah, reducing paper, reducing email file shares. Many companies know that you have problems with compliance as long as you use such kind of infrastructures and functionalities. Also, the question of document processing, the question of efficiency of document processing, less time consumption for the approvals for reviews here plays a significant role if you use this kind of software, this kind of solution. And also the integration of mobile devices here, mobile workers. This is something that is heavily supported by such kind of solutions. Replacing programming and customization with configuration. What does that mean? We all know that programming consumes a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of risk inside it, and also you will have, and we experience a lot of expensive, extensive work during adaptations if the system comes to an upgrade. And all this can be avoided significantly. And also in the area of validation, we are not talking about class 5 validation or GAMP class 5 validation anymore, so you don't have to validate all the code, which was the case during the times where we were talking about customizations and individual programming. Finally, industry-specific solution, the aspect of being industry-specific. It means that you can reuse experiences and practices from other companies within your industry. There has been a couple of years already being collected experience specifically by EMC. They have a lot of installations, have collected a lot of experiences in different companies of different size, but specifically in this industry. So they know what they're talking about, and a lot of functions in this module reflects the status, the best practices that are known in the industry. That also comes along with specifications already that don't necessarily have to be invented at the moment when the company comes to plan to implement such a software. Also, testing and validation is easier because EMC can provide already some basic documentation templates, so you don't have to start from scratch, from zero, and all the work around validating your solution is faster and more secure. So that's some key aspects of the business benefits of the solution module. And now I would like to forward that Hubert Beck will take over, because he's going to tell you a little bit more details about the functionality of this software.
Okay, thanks Peter for the introduction. From my side, a warm welcome to this webinar too, and thanks for taking the time. My name is Frank, as Peter already mentioned, is Hubert Meckel, and I'm Principal System Engineer at EMC in the Enterprise Content Division. I will now give you an overview of our life science solution, in particular in our quality manufacturing module. Let's begin with the architecture of the solution. The base of our solution is the Enterprise Content Management System Documentum, which with its well-known functionality, stability, scalability, and security. Documentum is widely used in the life science space, and we are proud to offer our own value-add solutions on top of it. On top of the Documentum platform, we have the D2 framework, which is responsible for providing the user interface and the implementation of the business rules. Documentum D2 is the advanced configurable content-centric application client for Documentum content management, offering a highly intuitive and personalized user experience that can accommodate individual preferences and working styles of different users while assuring compliance with organizational policies and standards. D2 makes knowledge workers more productive, reduces training costs, and accelerates user adoption of content management application. Documentum D2 takes the complexity out of enterprise content management with a powerful configuration framework, as Peter already pointed out, for creating purpose-built content solutions without the need for time-consuming customization. This unique approach enables organizations to respond more rapidly to changing business needs and accelerate time to value for ECM deployments. Additionally, it's important to note that the whole solution is adapted to your needs only by configuration, which of course has a positive influence on implementation time and validation efforts. Back to the architecture. On top of D2, we already configured the so-called unified solution layer. That provides you with a complete implementation of the DIA, EDM, and eTMF reference model, plus all the necessary configurations based on best practices like lifecycle, workflows, security models, and a complete set of compliance features. But that is not enough. Extending that unified solution layer with additional functionality and configurations, we offer 4 different modules on top. In the clinical domain, we have an eTMF module. In the regulatory domain, we have a research and development module and the submission store and view module. And last but not least, we have the quality and manufacturing module. With that picture, you could already see the unique value of having the different modules on one unified solution layer. Not only do you avoid doing the same configuration in different applications, you also have one single source of truth and do not need to copy documents which are used in different domains. For example, there are documents which are part of a submission, but later on, perhaps in some variations, they are used for quality and manufacturing, like specifications, test methods, stability documents, and others. They could be cross-referenced so that in case of changes, you are always aware of dependencies. But today, let's focus on the quality and manufacturing module. The other modules will be introduced in the following webinars. Let's now dig deeper. What's the quality and manufacturing solution all about? The quality and manufacturing solution is an out-of-the-box solution for the whole content lifecycle for controlled quality and manufacturing documentation. If you install that solution, you immediately have a running system with all necessary document artifacts, taxonomies, life cycles, and workflows built in, ready to go. Of course, you could adapt the solution, and the nice part is that all adaptation is done by just configuration. With the out-of-the-box configuration, you could easily ensure compliance with the GMP, Good Manufacturing Practice guidelines. Let's have a look at key capabilities. I just want to highlight some of them. Collaborative editing gives you the possibility to work simultaneously with different authors or reviewers on one single document in the native format. In one click, the author could then consolidate all changes into a new version without the need of retyping or redoing the work, while still ensuring the auditability of all input. We already have out-of-the-box configured some document views, for example, automatically create a signature page or watermarks with the status of the document. Attributes are automatically inherited and populated directly from the document system into the MS Office documents and vice versa, whereas this could be completely configured to have the synchronization either one way or both ways. The created documents have a very flexible and configurable auto-naming and auto-linking functionality. For FDA 21 CFR Part 11 compliance, we have the electronic signature pre-configured for certain actions like approvals. All actions could be audited. A signature page with all signatures, including timestamp and intention codes, is automatically attached to the document. The complete client is role-based and therefore tailored exactly to the individual user's needs. The search functionality is very rich, including full-text search, predefined searches, reports, filter search, export of search results into Excel, and many more. As the D2 client is based on HTML5, mobile devices could directly be used to access the solution. Here you have a look at the different out-of-the-box document categories and document groups. In every document group, you then could find the individual artifacts, like DIA column, or in Documentum language, document types with their respective attributes and all necessary value pick lists. In the solution, we already have a change request business process implemented. That process is focused on document-centric changes. For example, a new version of a document could only be sent into approval if it is attached to an already approved change request. A very important process in the quality manufacturing domain is the periodic review process, which is already built in and automated. After a successful periodic review, the interval to the next necessary periodic review is calculated and process is then automatically triggered by the system. And another key process is the to be read and understood process. This is of course implemented too. The necessary TBR notes are sent out, the TBR confirmations are traced and audited. You could define certain dependencies and checks like an SOP could only be set effective if all necessary to be read and understood notifications are signed. Out of the box, you get predefined searches like show me all missing TBRs for a certain document. That should give you a very brief impression on what the quality and manufacturing solution of our Life Science Solution Suite does offer you on a functionality side. Of course, we are more than happy if you show us your interest, and then we could go deeper on an individual case. Now let's have a short look onto the implementation approach. Sorry. I'm just trying to get it back. Yeah, here we go. As in every IT project in the regulated space, you should start with your user requirement specification. As you get an out-of-the-box ready-to-go system with built-in best practices, you should have in parallel a look at the solution to take advantage of our industry experience and compare your URFs with the solution. If there are gaps or necessary adaptations, this could be easily done in using the configuration framework D2. That gives you the advantage that the changes, including attribute masks, could be checked immediately. That gives you a chance to work very closely and fast with your end users or key users to tailor the solution to an optimal grade. Of course, the validation could not be missed out before you go into production. In most of our projects, we do not start on a green field. Therefore, the question of migration or already existing content and application comes up. This is where the experience of our FME colleagues come into play. And with that, I would like to hand over to Frank from FME.
Again, thank you all. I'm very pleased to have you with us today. And Peter and Hubert, thank you for kind of setting up the stage for me for my segment of the webinar. So I'm just going to click to the next slide. So the first thing I wanted to cover in my segment are the challenges from a data migration perspective, but I look at it, there's two ways of looking at it. There's challenges, or I would say opportunities. So here in this slide, we'll focus heavily on the left column where it says migrate, where we kind of highlighted the fact we have the content migration from webtop to D2 applications. D2 applications in the context of today would be the quality and manufacturing module and the life sciences suite. But there's a variety of use cases that may be within the scope in your organization. So it could be, as Hubert mentioned, greenfield, which may not be the case, or an in-place, if you will, or data coming from an existing repository where your strategic direction has been decided to move forward with the Q&M module. And that's where, you know, FME and our Migration Center product fits in perfectly, not just the product, but also the domain knowledge of the module and the artifacts within the module as part of a data migration process. So again, from a data migration perspective, the challenges or opportunity is around migrating to a future state architecture platform. Q&M in particular may have consolidation requirements going from one or more multiple repositories where you're storing maybe site-specific content that you want to harmonize in a centralized way. As you move forward with a quality and manufacturing implementation, we certainly support that as well. I'm not going to go through each and every scenario or use case, but as you can see, there's a variety of use cases that can be covered as part of your Q&M implementation strategy in the data migration work stream. So just to touch on a few things in more detail, to give you a little more substance on the migration topic, the question would be, are you migrating data, and I mentioned this already, from an existing repository, or is it a brand new repository where you're standing up a new environment and you're going to start bringing data in? In either case, when it comes to data migration, we certainly support that, both from an existing Documentum repository and or maybe a file share where you have data or SharePoint site that you have strategically decided to move forward with the Q&M module from the Life Sciences Suite. Things to consider and think about, and Hubert already covered this in some respects, that define data model, based on the DIA, EDM, the reference model of the Q&M, the GMP reference model, actually. So understanding that underlying data model is crucial as terms of data migration. And the thing that we have here in our solution, in our product, is the ability to do that level of mapping between your source repository to the target repository, being the Q&M implementation and that to-be state of application. The next thing to consider is around some of the details that Hubert also mentioned is around the automation, document filing, if you will, or putting documents into the repository in its appropriate location with the metadata being inherited and cascading. That automation is crucial, including security, and there's many other features and functions as it pertains to that automation, considering data migration, and I'll touch on that. I have a slide that touches on that a little bit. The next point I wanted to make is around dependencies. So as you're thinking and considering your data migration work stream and what's behind that, really understanding the metadata or data dictionary or registration information that's required, example, product information or site or manufacturing specific metadata, sort of that master data information is important as you consider, move into your details of your data migration work stream. And last point I want to make, which we support, and that's the crux of my point in my segment today, is the data migration process should be D2 aware, and that's really the sweet spot for FME as it pertains to this topic, and that's I'm going to cover a little bit more on that in the coming slide. Okay, so here's just a high-level view, give you a big picture view of FME Migration Center as it pertains to D2. We support a variety of sources in terms of data collection, one way to call it, where we can collect information from legacy systems, even a legacy Documentum repository that you want to migrate into the D2 Q&M module. We support a variety of them, and I'm not going to get into all of the details of that today, but this just giving you kind of an overview of what the capacity could be if you decided to move forward with Q&M and FME's Migration Center. We have a variety of migration paths. We have an open API to if necessary, depending on your specific needs, there's ways to extend our solution as it pertains to data migration. And there's a number of architectural points that can be covered, but given the time constraints for today, I'm just giving you a brief overview, and we certainly can field some questions or have a follow-up. High-level stepwise approach. I'm not going to go in great detail within each one, but just to give you the picture where we analyze information coming from that source environment. We're able to segment that information, what we call organize, into manageable chunks or pieces, or what we call migration sets. For example, we could segment, if you have a multi-site implementation and you have site information coming from different cabinets in a historical Documentum repository, we can certainly segment that by site. That could be part of your migration roadmap, where you've your future state approach technologies is investing in Q&M, and you want to bring in site by site, and we certainly can support that. We could segment that information and also do the level of transformation that's appropriate. I alluded to some of the data modeling dependencies, and this is where we fit in perfectly. We understand the 2B model, the Q&M model. We can perform the level of mapping and transformation rules to put that information into the D2 Q&M aware artifacts and run through that process, validate that information before it's loaded into that future, the target repository, make the appropriate corrections prior to doing that import, if you will, and at that point we're ready to process that information into the target repository with the Q&M application. There's just a little bit of a delay in the slide transition. Okay, here we go. So here is an example just to give you a little more substance to the points that I've been making. As I mentioned earlier, and even to dovetail that or to tie that back to some of the things that Hubert had mentioned around that automation, that auto-linking, the auto-naming, assigning the appropriate security, assigning the appropriate life cycle. These are the things that our D2 adapter provides as part of our solution, as part of our software approach to this from a data migration perspective. So we're adhering to the D2 and the Q&M rules and those underlying artifacts so that things are put into its appropriate place and the model is enforced. So this is where we fit in nicely. An example could be, you have data coming from a source environment that has periodic reviews taking place, but it's not a 100% fit into the Q&M module. So this mapping process that I mentioned earlier, so we can provide that level of mapping. We can make sure that the target, the Q&M implementation, the model is set properly so that those rules can be enforced in the target repository Q&M implementation. So this is just a highlight, just to give you some substance to the points that I made earlier. And lastly, just some highlights, what I'll say unique features of Migration Center is around managing volume, so large volumes. We have support this case, and we have done a variety of data migrations that have large volumes of information. We also have, as part of our solution approach, centralized transformation database. That's the underlying engine, if you will, of our software as it comes to data migration and those transformation rules that I mentioned. We have a step-by-step process built into our software that can be followed more or less like a workflow. So it's a process flow that we go through within our software, having the configurability, metadata transformation, so taking the information from the source, mapping into the 2B state, the Q&M implementation. More importantly, we have the ability to enrich that, so it may not have a one-to-one correlation between where you're coming from and where you're going in the Q&M implementation. So enrichment is another part of our capability to get it into the 2B model, the Q&M model. And lastly, I mentioned that, not lastly, but more importantly, real-time simulation. We can run through the scenarios prior to processing the information so we can see and look for any anomalies that may come out as terms of the data migration mapping, and which is very important, Delta migration. So most customers that we work with have productive systems that are in place, so we're able to consume, collect, and process that information while the production environment's live and handle the incremental changes as we come to more of a cutover approach to go live with the future platform. Last 2 points around auditability. We have that we're auditing the process. We're adhering to the auditing capabilities within the Documentum platform. And lastly, we have an open architecture. Depending on if you have special use cases or special requirements, we have that ability to extend our platform to suit those needs. And I believe that is the last slide, so we can segment into, I believe, our Q&A part of the webinar.
Yes, thank you very much, Frank. That was an interesting part of the presentation. Let me skip to the next slide. We are quite in time, a little bit more than 30 minutes now consumed for the presentations. Thank you very much, all of you. You can now still enter questions into the panel area for the questions. On the other hand, I have some received already. So meanwhile, you are typing and maybe adding further questions. I can read one of those that we have received until now. One of them is a question regarding change requests. I think this is one that is for Hubert Meckel. I unmute you now. So the participant says, you mentioned that the SOP could only be sent into the approval if an approved change request is attached. Is this mandatory?
I will take that one. Yes, it depends on how the question is meant. If it is configured that it is mandatory, then you have no chance to get around it. So we have a check built in. But as that complete set of functionality is just configured, it's just a checkbox. So if you don't want to have that restriction or that check, you could easily just empty that checkbox, and the check will be missed.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Hubert. Yeah. Again, if anybody would like to enter questions now, please don't hesitate. We have a couple of minutes time yet. There's another one at the moment in the screen. In case of holidays, I think this is again some functionality question. In case of holidays, could tasks be delegated?
Yeah, I take that again. Yes, of course, tasks could be delegated. There are several ways to do it. If you allow it by configuration, then somebody who has to fulfill a task could delegate it, as he, for example, notice, well, I'm not the right one to review, I want somebody else to review. In case of holidays, you have the possibility to have a delegation defined, like you could configure in your mail system. So every task is passed on. And last but not least, you have the possibility from an administrative side to move tasks from one to another delegate. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Hubert. Maybe the last minute we still have, or a couple of minutes yet, there's a question regarding the validation, maybe a little bit more in detail. I mentioned it in the very first part of also my presentation. Because is your system validated, or do you support the validation somehow? Maybe you can give us an idea on a little bit more detail. I think it's a Hubert question. Again, I'm sorry, Hubert.
Yeah, okay, I'll take it. Well, the system itself could not be out of the box be validated, because the validation depends on your specific user requirement specification. Nevertheless, together with the product, we deliver a validation package of documentation where we already have some of the documents, or the documents we could prepare from our side, from product side, we will already deliver, and then you could easily adapt it to your needs. So we take a lot of that effort off you, and of course, as well, FME consultants as well as EMC consultants are more than happy to support you on your validation issues.
Yeah, and Peter, this is Frank. I can add to that. We actually at FME we're working closely with the customer actually, and closely with EMC on leveraging the material that Hubert has mentioned. So we are actually using that in a practical way with a customer now. So we're leveraging those assets to its fullest, and where we see very unique customer-specific configurations, that's where we're adapting that material to fit those special needs. So just to put it out there, we are leveraging that material from a validation perspective to minimize effort, both on FME as a partner to a customer effort, as well as internal customer efforts. So I would strongly recommend that review of that material for those who are interested in pursuing a Q&M implementation. It's definitely an accelerator from a validation perspective.
Okay, yes, thank you very much, Frank, and thank you very much, Hubert. So, are there any further questions? It seems to be that questions are exhausted. At least I don't see any further in the panel. And yes, if so, then I would like to thank everybody who was attending here and listening to us. I would like again to thank the presenters, and of course I would like to thank all the people around and in the background that were helping us to create this webinar and present this webinar. And maybe finally draw your attention to the next one that we are going to prepare in the next weeks, and we'll have it published on 1st of December, 4 p.m. At the same time as today. And I would like to invite you kindly to listen to the next module overview, which is the electronic trial master file then. So thank you very much. Have a nice day or a nice evening, depending on which time region you have at the moment, and see you hopefully next time. Thank you very much.